So, if you haven't figured it out by now, I love writing. I love writing about villains, and I occasionally like writing about politics. And if ever there's a chance to combine the two, I'm just a kid in a candy store. And a couple years ago, I just had this idea, given everything that's going on in the world, to write a pilot script about Star Wars and the politics going on in the Star Wars universe. And my big motivation in writing it was always like, if you notice, between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope, there are all these kind of other shows that aren't really telling the story of the galaxy. And I know why Disney has to do that. I'm not knocking that. But, you know, it's usually like some Jedi off at the edge of the galaxy that no one's heard of and we kind of don't hear from again, etc., etc. The real story of the galaxy between those two movies is the Emperor kind of solidifying his dictatorship and his relationship with Darth Vader. And I was always a little bit disappointed that Disney never did anything to explore that. And they do have a Darth Vader comic book. And I think they've given Grand Admiral Thrawn a comic book. And so that's kind of edging in that area. But the Emperor is the story of the galaxy. And so I just kind of had this idea of what would it be like in that universe to watch as he cuts democratic freedoms one by one. And like I said, given what's going on in today's world, I thought it was really applicable. So I wrote this script, sent it to a guy who used to work at Disney, doesn't work at Disney anymore. He was like, they'll never go for this. It's too dark. It's too complex. And so I didn't take it personally. I was just like, fair enough. But the magic of having a YouTube channel is I can literally just tell you guys about it. Maybe it's the worst idea ever. You can leave me a comment. Maybe it's great. If so, you know, I'm waiting for Disney CEO Bob Iger or somebody from the company to give me a call. I'm very happy to tell them more. Actually, I got so excited about this project, I wrote a series Bible, which is like a summary of all the episodes for not one, but 2 seasons. So let's just jump right in. So obviously, it's the story of the galaxy. It's taking place on the planet of Coruscant, which of course is just one giant futuristic city. And as we kind of pan down into Coruscant, we move to the Jedi Temple. And obviously at this point, it's taking place maybe about a month or 2 months after Revenge of the Sith. The Jedi Temple is overrun, it's ruined, there are, blast marks everywhere, it's empty. And the first person we see is a Imperial captain called Skara Dane. And the inspiration of this, I freely admit, she wasn't there and then I added her in later, was I saw actress Anika Noni Rose. She was Princess Tiana from Princess and the Frog. But when I saw her do Jukebox, which was this corrupt police officer in Power All the Stars, I just fell in love with the idea of her as a villain. And so I was like, what if we had Jukebox meets Captain Phasma, right? So you have some Imperial guard who's beautiful and yet still powerful and ruthless. So Skara Dane is there, keeping watch, making sure all is still. And in the corner of some Jedi practice room, the Emperor is torturing one of the last remaining Jedi who's been found somewhere. And in torturing the Jedi, he's trying to teach his apprentice, Darth Vader, how to manipulate the dark side of the Force such to use lightning bolts. And I think I don't know if this was explained in some of the comic books or, other books which may or may not be canon. They were canon and Disney said they're not, and some of them still are. So I apologize if I'm messing with anyone's canon. This is just my vision for it. But Vader can't use the lightning bolts because with his machinery, he's too machine. He's not enough force-wielding human anymore. So the Emperor is trying to show him how to use lightning. He's torturing this poor Jedi, and Vader tries to do it. He accomplishes sending a blast, but it's a very weak blast. And at the same time, he blasts the poor Jedi, but in the process, he accidentally blasts himself. And remember in that kind of Return of the Jedi when the Emperor blasts Vader, his like breathing equipment got all messed up and he was wheezing, and on how that weird kind of wheezing hiss sound, that's what's happening. So Vader blasts, he falls to the ground, he's wheezing, and now the Emperor's looking at him with extreme disappointment, right? The Emperor's kind of thinking, you were supposed to be the Jedi Messiah, I turned you, and now you're weak. Like, you went and got yourself injured, maybe you're not as powerful as I thought. And Vader's kind of, without saying anything, kind of trying to get back up off the ground, kind of craving the Emperor's approval. And the Emperor just basically uses the Force, unties the Jedi who's being tortured, and tosses the Jedi lightsaber, and basically says to Vader effectively, you're on your own. And Palpatine just walks out. And Cara Dane is like, do we need to go back and rescue Vader? And the Emperor's like, nope, take me to my palace. The Emperor just leaves him to his fate. And I thought that was kind of very telling. And I get it's kind of cold even for the Emperor, but the Sith is very much about, you either need to be adapting and getting better, or you get destroyed and you make room for somebody else. And I thought that was kind of appropriate with, kind of given the lore of the Sith. So basically the Emperor goes back to the Imperial Senate. So back in the Jedi Temple, Vader's weak. This Jedi picks up the lightsaber and he says something like, I can't bring back my fallen comrades, but I'm gonna deal a profound blow to the Sith. And they basically have an epic lightsaber battle. Vader's weak, but obviously Vader bests this poor Jedi, and Vader kind of says, like you were saying, and then kind of turns and walks out himself. I did have this other idea of how the lightsaber battle could maybe go. So let's say Vader and the Jedi are dueling, they're having this massive battle, but the Jedi knocks Vader to the ground. Maybe he uses the Force and rips his lightsaber away, but Vader's on the ground, weak, wheezing, defenseless, and the Jedi raises his own saber, ready to deal the final blow to get revenge on Vader for everything that he's done. But then, bang. The Jedi gets shot right in the back, he falls to the ground, and behind him we see Cara Dane holding the smoking gun. I just think that would be really cool because it gives her a chance to shine. It shows us that her character is not to be messed with, much like Jukebox and in Power. And it kind of sets up some cool foreshadowing of what's going to happen between Skara and Vader later. And then everything cuts back to the Imperial Senate. So again, I love politics. The Emperor in Revenge of the Sith was basically turning the Senate into from a galactic republic to the Empire, and we kind of know there's a kind of a throwaway line in Star Wars A New Hope, the original 77 one, where Grand Moff Tarkin says something like, the Emperor has dissolved the Senate finally. So we know the Senate was around for whenever that was, like that 15-20 year period. So the question is, what were they all doing? They were all just kind of hanging out, twiddling their thumbs. So I kind of had the idea of the Emperor is trying to ratify a new constitution which requires the Senate to pass it, and the Senate basically has to vote to solidify all of the chancellors, now the Emperor's emergency powers, and basically he's going to coronate himself dictator for life. And whatever the numbers of the senators are, they're debating it. Obviously Mon Mothma and Bail Organa, they represent the quote-unquote good guys. They're the small d Democratic Party, the party that doesn't want the Emperor to have all these powers. And obviously the Emperor's not there himself. He leaves that to his underlings. But even amongst underlings in a dictatorship, everyone jockeys for power. And like all dictatorships, like the dictators have a political party, and the Emperor has one. And the leader of the Emperor's political party in the Senate is a man named Viscal. And my motivation with Viscal is that he's half Varys from Game of Thrones and half Wei Yun from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. And those were kind of two of my favorite villains, and they're very similar but somewhat slightly different. And Varys kind of has a moral compass, right? So he's a little bit cowardly, but he has a sense of right and wrong, but he kind of has spies. He knows everything about everyone. He makes it his business to memorize all the little details in order to manipulate people. But he still kind of does have a moral core, and he tries to help the good guys when he can. Wei Yun, who is a clone, who's the chief facilitator of the Dominion, which if you don't watch Star Trek, that's like the evil Federation on the other side of the galaxy. Wei Yun is one of these people who's always nice. He's always smiling to your face, but he could literally smile, shake your hand, and then turn around and order your execution. And he never deviates from that, and he's always loyal to the founders, and he's just kind of always polite but evil to his core. And that's Viscal, one of these two, kind of a combination of these two characters. And Viscal is one of those, I forget the name of what they're called, but those kind of gray people who may or may not have the power to manipulate people's mind or mind meld. They're kind of gray, shaved head, dark eyes. The Emperor was kind of sitting next to one of them in Revenge of the Sith. So Viscal is speaking on behalf of the Emperor, saying we need to be loyal to the Emperor, we need to be loyal to the Empire, blah, blah, blah. And in walks Jar Jar Binks, who, of course, as Star Wars fans, we all hate him. So Padme is dead. Jar Jar is the representative from the planet of Naboo, so he gets to vote in Padme's place. And Jar Jar casts the deciding vote to vote down the Emperor's constitution by one vote, and Mon Mothma and Bail Organa are thrilled. Viscal and his, minions are all rather annoyed, and it's kind of Jar Jar's last thing before returning to Naboo. And of course, Mon Mothma and Bail Organa say, "Great job, Padme would be so proud." And I'm not even going to read any of these horrible lines I wrote because it's Jar Jar speaking, but Jar Jar saying goodbye to Bail Organa and Mon Mothma, and they say, "Farewell, Jar Jar, you served your planet well." And he goes, "Oh, don't worry, you haven't seen the last of me. I'll be back with Tobo Nas." And I'm not going to mention the particular politician this might be somewhat based off of, but there is a Gungan on Naboo who's campaigning to be the senator for the whole planet. Well, humans outnumber Gungans like 2 or 3 to 1, but he's charismatic. He doesn't speak in that ridiculous, awful accent or dialect that the Gungans use. He speaks like everyone else. He's very well educated, but he is the quote-unquote hope and change candidate of the Gungans. And I chose, Tobo Nas because the Gungan leader in Phantom Menace was named Rugor Nas, and so I thought that Tobo Nas was like his grandson or his son. So he's related to the leader of the Gungans. He's been educated in Naboo, the same places where Padme went. He's running. So Jar Jar says, "Don't worry, I'm going to be back with Tobo Nas. He's going to be a great senator." And Jar Jar flies away, and basically Bail Organa looks to Mon Mothma and says, "Tobo Nas does not have a snowball's chance in hell of winning. He's not going to win this election. The humans of Naboo aren't going to vote for a Gungan." Right as they're having that discussion, something goes wrong on Jar Jar's shuttlecraft. Oh, and it crashes and explodes into a big ball of flames. So, yes, fans of Star Wars, if Disney gave me my way, I would kill Jar Jar in spectacular fashion. Now, I read again, on some, I don't know if it's canon or not anymore, but some story where Jar Jar is some clown on the edge of the galaxy, and I thought, well, kill him in a interesting, kind of cool way that forwards the plot. So Jar Jar's shuttlecraft blows up. Bail Organa is like, this is clearly the Emperor killing him for casting the deciding vote against the Constitution, or the Emperor's kind of quote-unquote Constitution. And Bail is furious. He's absolutely just beside himself with rage. He basically finds Viscal, who's in the middle of some party sipping martinis, and basically just punches Viscal in the face and says, "I know you did this, you scumbag." Yeah, I use kind of slightly more articulate political language than that, but I know you did it. You freaking killed Jar Jar. I hate you. And Viscal's like, "I don't know what you're talking about." And Mon Mothma has to pull Bail off of Viscal and says, "He's not worth it, don't do it." And Viscal is like, it's such a shame you've attacked me. I'm going to have to bring this before the ethics committee, and we're going to have to potentially expel you from the Senate. If Bail is suddenly suspended, he can't vote against the Emperor's constitution, which means it passes. So obviously Mon Mothma takes Bail Organa aside and says, "You freaking idiot, you've just thrown yourself open to an investigation. They're gonna, suspend you, and you've thrown the whole movement into chaos with your outburst." Bail Organa is like, "Look, I know I lost my cool, but just the Emperor's always doing this kind of stuff. We have to stop it. If we don't rise up and do something, he's going to continue to cut our democratic freedoms and institutions one by one." And Mon Mothma says, "I know this is not the right time, but Jar Jar's death might generate sympathy for Tobo Nas. Like this actually might work in our favor." And Bail Organa's like, "I can't believe you would say that. Like, he just died, like he was our friend." And Mon Mothma's like, "The whole galaxy is at stake. We got to do whatever we can." And basically Mon Mothma, I don't know if they have money in the Star Wars universe. I guess they have galactic credits, right? And I don't know if that accounts for $1 or what's the galactic credit to US dollar exchange rate. But I kind of had it that whatever their political party had left in the bank, Mon Mothma decides we have to send it all to Tobo Nas, because with Jar Jar's dead and Bail Organa is suspended from the Senate, he has to win this election or it's all over. So she sends the last little bit of money they have to Tobo Nas in Naboo, who's campaigning for hope and change. So that's the end of part 1. I'm going to cut it off there. Parts 2 and 3 will be coming soon. But let me know what you think. Is Star Wars Imperium a great idea? A really cool way to show kind of politics in the heart of science fiction, showing how democracies turn into fascist dictatorships, looking again at the relationships between the Emperor and Darth Vader. I liked the idea, but maybe it was just too out there and too dark. Please let me know in the comments. But for all my sins, I do kill Jar Jar Binks, so let me know what you think of that. And yeah, please be sure to like and subscribe. That helps us more than you think. Also, if you can, I've got a Patreon page to help contribute to this and other projects. So again, thank you so much, and talk to you soon.